If you're a speaker, trainer, coach, or consultant, this is for you. Many of you ask me, how do I get paid to speak? When the question you should really be asking me is, how do I position myself powerfully to get paid to speak? Don't worry, I got you. And I'm going to answer that question in my Authority Elevator Masterclass. 90 minutes, me and you, I am going to show you the 3-step framework that you need to implement in your business right now to be looked at as a highly paid, sought after speaker. We're going to talk about messaging, marketing, and monetization. All you have to do is click on the link. It's either under this message or somewhere on this page. Click on the link, go to authorityelevator.com and grab your seat. You want to make sure that you're in the place. Stop asking the wrong questions. The question is not, how do I get paid to speak? The question is, how do you position yourself to get paid to speak? And you'll get that answer in the Authority Elevator. So come join me in the next one. Click on the link or just go to authorityelevator.com and grab your seat today. Welcome to another edition of the Speaking of Speaking podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Charles Collins. And speaking of speaking, today we're going to be talking about signature talks. Now, this is part 1 of a 2-part series. So make sure that when you finish watching this video, you jump on over to part 2, where I'm going to be talking more about signature talk. So part 1, I'm going to talk to you about what a signature talk is, what it's not, and why you definitely 100% non-negotiable need one. And then in part 2, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 things that your signature talk should include and it should do for you. All right. So let's jump into it. Now, when we talk about signature talks, some of you might say, well, I'm not a keynote speaker, so I don't need a signature talk. It doesn't matter. Whether you are a speaker, a keynote speaker, a trainer, a consultant, a coach, anybody who is using speaking to either get paid to speak or you're using speaking for a lead generation tool, either one, any of those, you need to have a signature talk or presentation. Why? Because it's a thing that people are going to seek you out for. So what I want to do first is to talk to you about what a signature talk is not. Then we'll talk about what it is. And then we'll just talk about some of the benefits of having a powerful signature talk. What is not? It is not. A signature talk is not your signature story. Now, I know that a lot of you think, oh, I have a testimony, I have a story, something happened to you, something you experienced, and people have been gassing you up and telling you, girl, you need to share that story. But here's the truth. Nobody cares about your story. They do not care about your story. Now, you've been on stages before and you've told that story, or you've been with friends and you've shared that story and everybody claps for you and everybody says, oh my God, it's so great that you got through that or that you accomplished that. That's all good and well. When it comes, though, to wanting to be a highly paid speaker, someone who gets 5 figures and more for your talks, it can't just be your story. So though I said nobody cares about your story, what I really mean is that nobody cares about your story in the way that you would tell it to a friend. In the way that if you and I were having a conversation, maybe about you being fired or getting divorced or climbing a mountain or any of that, unless you are, a top name celebrity and they believe it has some juicy detail, or you just have a name, your story alone is not enough. So your signature talk is not your signature story. However, your signature story or stories are part of your signature talk. And they are, when it's done well, it's built into the signature talk so that you help people to clarify, illustrate, or explain the point that you're making within your signature talk. 2, your signature talk is not a script. I was scrolling through Instagram the other day and I saw an ad for another person, another coach doing signature talks and speaker coaching. And I was watching the video and watching and reading all of the stuff. And in there, it said that they had a do it for you part of their program. And what they said was, we'll write your script. I was like, what? No, you don't want to write a script for people. Scripts are for actors. And that's fine if you want to be an actor. However, when you are on stage and you're delivering a presentation, you're delivering a keynote, you're delivering your training, you don't want to sound scripted. And you don't want somebody else to just write it for you, because all you're then doing is delivering something that somebody else put together. It makes it harder for you to deliver with power, with emotion. It also makes it harder for you to deliver with confidence, because it's not your own words. It's not your own thoughts. It's not your own feelings. It's not your own expertise. Now, if they're writing this in conjunction with you, like how we work together with our clients to develop their talks, if they're doing it in conjunction, then that's better. But again, you don't want it to be so scripted, because if it's scripted, what you're going to try to do is memorize it. And if you try to memorize it, again, it's going to make you sound scripted. And two, it's going to scare the out of you, because if you get on stage and you have this script that you have memorized, and then you're going through your talk and somehow you make a mistake, you forget a word, or if you're like me, I'm very visual. So if I've written it down on paper, I've seen it. And when I am speaking, if I forget, then I am all in the paper, even though the paper is not in front of me, because I know it should have been there. And so now that has thrown me off. And I'll tell you, this actually did happen to me. When I was practicing law, I decided that I wanted to apply to become a judge. And it was my first time applying for judge, and I knew I was going to be in front of this committee and I had to answer all of these questions. And I knew I didn't have a lot of time. So I scripted out what I wanted to say to the judges. I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that, because I had scripted it. I had, read it a million times so that I could say it and memorize it and deliver it. And when I got there, I got nervous and didn't remember. And what it did is that I now started in my brain trying to think about, oh, shoot, what was the word that was supposed to come next? What was the sentence? What was this? So needless to say, I didn't do a good job. I did not do a good job during that interview, but I'm glad I'm not a judge. I'm also glad that I am not a judge. But I want to share that with you, because even somebody like me, who is a professional speaker, who can, speak off the top of her head, I went against the grain and against what I know for me to be the way that I show up powerfully, and it totally just tanked me. And for all of you who are like, oh, Kelly, I could never just get up and talk. I could never just be up there for however many hours or 30 minutes and not have written this entire thing down and read it a million times and memorized it. Bullshit. Bullshit. You can do it. You can do it. It just takes practice, and it takes understanding that when a message comes from you and comes through you, it is different, because when it does that, and put that on top of frameworks that we teach you in order to not memorize, to internalize your talks, you could do it. You can do it with a few slides. You could do it with a few bullet points. You could do it if you have none of those things, because the frameworks that we teach you allow you to move through your message with the confidence that you could deliver it at any time, anywhere, with or without notes. So a signature talk is not a script. A signature talk is also not just an opening statement, 3 points, and a closing. That is another way that lots of you may have been taught to put together a talk. But an opening, 3 points, and a closing, that's a book report, right? Remember when we were in school And they would tell us, go read the book, and then you have to do a book report. Make sure that you have a great opening paragraph, and then 3 points about the story, and then your conclusion. That's a book report. As a professional speaker, as someone who is responsible for shifting people and intriguing people and transforming your audience, you can't just come up there with a book report. You have to be on stage and be able to deliver a powerful message that creates intrigue, that transforms your audience, that shifts perspectives, that takes them on a journey from where they are, current state, to their desired state. I call that my bridge framework, right? So understanding where your audience is, where it is that your audience wants to go, and then you being the vessel, the vehicle to get them there on that journey. And so your signature talk has to be able to do those things. So if you're just thinking about your own story, going back to the beginning, if you're just thinking about your own story and you've now created a talk where you're giving an open paragraph about your story, 3 points about your story, and a conclusion about your story, you can see where the audience is left behind. You're just, again, delivering a book report about your story. And nobody wants to hear that. What they want to hear is, how is it that what you have been through, what you have experienced personally or professionally, is going to help them on their journey from where they are to where they desire to go. Okay. So I want you to get really, really clear about that, because it is a disservice to many speakers that they have been taught to just talk about their story. And again, it's not that your story doesn't matter. It's that your story is not the message. Your story is a piece of the message. And so when a talk is built powerfully, you understand how to build that in. Okay, so let's talk about what a signature talk actually is. So your signature talk is a powerful message that solves a problem. Not your problem. It may have been your problem in the past, but it solves the audience's problem. It is a message that takes them on the journey, as I just said, from where they are to where it is that they desire to go. And inside of that signature talk, you will build in your relevant, riveting, and relatable story. So I call that my 3 R's. When I'm teaching my clients how to put their talks together, and we're looking at what stories need to go inside of it, we're looking at those 3 R's. Is the story relevant? Is it riveting? And is it relatable? The reason why is because the way that we tell stories normally to our friends, to our colleagues, is not the way that you would tell a story inside of a signature talk. The story that you might be telling, for example, when I was, fired from my job as a lawyer because they couldn't afford to pay me anymore, that story is long, right? I can tell that story, every single piece of that story that happened. However, if I'm inside of one of my talks, I'm only going to pull out the pieces that are relevant, the pieces that are riveting, the pieces that are going to draw people in, that create intrigue, and that are relatable. If I'm talking, you want to know who's in your audience. So I want to share the parts that are relatable, that people will get, that people will hold on to, because you never want to drop people out of the journey. So you want to make sure that those stories are inside of the message, and that they make sense to the message. And those stories need to explain something, clarify something, illustrate something, or amplify something. Okay, so the story itself is a part of the signature talk, but the signature talk itself is an actual broader message that solves a problem. And depending on who your audience is, it needs to solve, maybe if you're talking to corporations, especially in the sales conversation, which you use your signature talk for, you need to be talking to them about bottom line issues. Those are their problems. That's what they care about. And then if you're talking to your consuming audience, say they're employees of that corporation, you need to understand what their issues are. What are they going through? And that you need to speak to them. Now, that one signature talk, if it's built properly and built the way that we build talks based on our signature talk blueprint, it will answer both of those things. So you don't have to go figure out, oh gosh, I need to talk to, the decision maker over here with my signature talk. And then, I got to figure out something and then go over here. No, it's all one talk, all built to answer all the questions that you need to ask, that you need to answer. Your signature talk is also a marketing vehicle. When your signature talk is built the right way, it helps you to understand what it is that you need to go out into the world and communicate so that your potential clients can find you, so that you attract your potential clients. It helps you to understand the type of content that you need to put out. Content is a beast. Developing content is a beast. And I don't care what anybody says. Even with all of the AI, I mean, it makes it easier. But the idea of being on social media all the time, which I have a love-hate relationship with social media, but it's necessary for my business and for the business growth. And so I'm there. So I look at social media as a tool, not a toy. And I use it as a marketing tool for my business. So when you have your signature talk and you're able to really flesh that out, you understand the universe, right? The universe of content that you need to put out into the world and how you can break that down. And because your talk is built in such a way that it's answering your consuming audience's problems and questions and your paying audience's problems and questions, you'll know how to do that particular content. So if I'm talking to consuming audience over here, what type of content do I need to put out? If I'm talking to paying audience over here, what type of content do I want to put out? And the reason that it's important that the content is related to your talk is because when you start to have these conversations, if they've seen content about basket weaving and all this, and they're like, oh, this is great. And then they have a conversation, you're like, no, but I really talk about, really what I'm talking about is financial literacy. There's a total disconnect. And so you have to make sure that you leverage your talk, leverage your presentation, your signature talk, your signature presentation to set you up as an authority, to set you up as a thought leader in the space that you want to be known for. So this is your responsibility when you're building your talk. So whether you work with me to help you build your talk or anyone else, make sure that they're helping you to do that. Your signature talk, let's see what else I want to tell you. So your signature talk is the thing that you are going to sell. So when we think about speaking, a lot of you don't think about speaking as a business. If you don't think about speaking as a business, then this whole conversation around signature talk is not going to make sense to you, or you're going to see it as a nice to have as opposed to a must have. Here's why. If you just think of speaking as something that you're able to do because it's fun and you like to share your testimony or your story, or you just like to be on stage, it's a hobby. And so having one thing that you talk about all the time, which I know can seem repetitive, but don't worry about it. People like Les Brown have been doing it for years and he's doing just fine. So make sure that you understand that this is the business. However, if you just want to talk about anything at any time, anywhere, then having a signature talk for you doesn't seem enticing. On the other hand, if you realize that this is a business and a business sells something, a business has either a product or a service that it sells, and people are coming to buy that particular product over and over and over and over again. Some people might be the same person buying it over and over again. Sometimes it's just different people coming in. But if you go to the grocery store, if you go to Louis Vuitton, what are you going in there to buy? The purse, the scarves, the whatever, but they have these products that they sell, right? Meaning that they charge money for. Same thing in your speaking business. Your speaking business, the product or the service is your talk. So that thing, that product, that signature talk, that signature presentation, that signature framework that you use as a consultant has to have a price. I talk about pricing in some of the other videos. Go back and check, see, what I have to say about making sure that you're pricing appropriately. But that signature talk must have a price. And when it does, when you start thinking about it that way, and you start thinking about the fact that the signature talk is actually the product that you sell, it's the service that you sell inside of your business, you'll realize that you have to have a signature talk. Now, I know some of y'all fighting me on this because, like me, you got a lot of things in your brain. And you're like, but Kelly, I don't want to talk about just one thing. I just don't want to talk about one thing. I have like 3 and 4 and 5 things. There's another video where I talk to you in the unique expertise video. I tell you about, when I started and I had 9 topics, 9, until my coach said to me, you need to have a signature. You need to be known for something. Otherwise, you're out here, developing these 9 presentations. And how are you going to market? Remember, we said this is a marketing tool. How do you go out and market all of those 9 different things? I'm talking about this today and that tomorrow and this next week. Like, how do you do that? It is the reason that you need a signature talk. When I started, I ended up with 3 signature talks. However, they were related in some way, and there were things that I had already been doing. So originally, when I started, I was talking about workplace investigations. I had written the book on that, and I had already been presenting on that out into the world. So people knew me for that. And it was what I did as a lawyer. I also had a presentation on bystander effect. And that was because that's what I had delivered my TEDx on. And it was an award-winning TEDx on that topic. So yes, I would talk about that. The third topic, the third signature talk that I had was unconscious bias. And that was related again to my work as a lawyer and doing discrimination and retaliation cases, etc. So that was a signature talk. Now you hear me say that I had those 3 talks, but I led with one of them. And the one that I led with was unconscious bias. The reason I did that is because I knew that I could pull in the pieces of the other ones into that umbrella underneath that talk. It was also the thing that I wanted to be known for at that time. Yes, I had written the book on workplace investigations. Yes, I had done the TEDx on bystander effect. But what I really wanted to talk about, what really brought me joy, going back to the video where I talk about the 6 Ps that you need and the positioning, I wanted to be positioned as an unconscious bias expert. And therefore, the signature talk that I leaned into was unconscious bias. And thankfully, I did that because when I became a full-time entrepreneur, a full-time speaker, that was in January of 2020. We know March 2020 is when we had the pandemic and, shut everything down. But then in May is when George Floyd was murdered. And then companies were like, hey, we need somebody to come talk to us about all these things and hold listening sessions and whatever. And because I had positioned myself as an unconscious bias expert, because I had, in the wake of George Floyd, had basically a listening session, right? One of the very first listening sessions. Then people knew that about me. They knew both that I had done the listening session. They knew that I was an unconscious bias expert. And so they started to refer me, and I started to, clients were just coming out of the woodworks because it's something that I had become known for. This is the power of having a signature talk. This is the power of having a signature talk, that other people understand that that's who you are in the world. And so that when something happens, they can refer you. This is why you need to have a signature talk. But again, I had those other two. So you know what I would do with those? When I would have a conversation, if I found that in that conversation, maybe those other two topics were relevant, or maybe one was relevant, I may say to them, hey, I also speak about this. Or I would find a way to weave it in to the unconscious bias talk because it was necessary. One thing that I also did after I kind of shifted, I moved away from speaking on investigations, and then I pulled in talking about courageous conversations, which came out of all of the work I was doing around listening sessions and in the wake of George Floyd. One of the things that I did is then I also created a signature talk that blended the three things. So there are ways that you can do this. And when you learn how to build a signature talk based on our framework, the signature talk Blackprint, it makes it so easy to be able to maneuver and use your expertise in ways that you hadn't even thought of if somebody just says, tell your story, or use an opening, 3 points, and a closing. You understand? So it's so vitally important that you understand the power of a signature talk and why it's so necessary. So let's talk about some of the other benefits of having a signature talk. When you have a signature talk and you become known for something and people can see your thought leadership, whether you're posting on LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and they can see that you have a unique point of view, that you are not just regurgitating everything that you've heard wherever you've heard it from, that you're not just, repeating other people's things that you have read in their books. You're not just quoting other people, but you become quotable. When you are in a sales conversation, it reduces friction. So it reduces the friction around whether or not people want to pay you the amount of money that you're asking for. Many of you have conversations with people and you end up speaking for free or being underpaid because you cannot communicate the value because you haven't taken the time to really understand what your signature talk is. What are the problems that you're solving? Who are the people for whom you're solving these problems, and how is it that you're going to take them from point A to point B? How is it that you are the solution, not just a solution? And so when you're having these sales conversation, it causes friction. And that friction is, yeah, you're here, you're telling me this, and you're saying that the rate is this, but I don't see that. I don't hear that in the conversation. I don't hear that value. And understand that when people are saying, if you say your fee is 15,000 and they say, can't do that, or I only have 1,000, it has nothing to do with you personally. What they're saying is they don't see the value exchange. And because they don't see the value exchange, they don't want to pay that money. However, if you develop your signature talk in such a way that it becomes your calling card, it becomes a thing that you become known for. It's a thing that when they go and look on your social media, because they do that before they speak to you, that value is already there. So there's not that friction when you all get on to the call. There's not going to be any friction around that. They are going to be like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. I am all for that. I will pay you. It doesn't matter. A signature talk also increases your brand awareness. You might be thinking, Kelly, it ain't doing all that. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because again, what you're going to do is use the pieces of your signature talk. You're going to use the topics that you're speaking about. You're going to use the journey that you're taking people on. And that is how you're going to be putting stuff out into the world to increase your authority and to increase your influence and to increase that know, like, trust value that you have with other people. And I always say it's know, like, trust, but it's also know, like, and value. You want people to value you as a thought leader in your space so that they will want to bring you in, bring you on their stage, bring you into their corporations. And so it is something that will help you to increase brand awareness. It will help you to attract the right clients. We can attract clients all day, all day, every day, or attract people. But we know that not everybody is the right client. When you have your signature talk and it's developed in a way that truly speaks to who you are and who you want to be in the world and the problems that you want to solve, and that you can really solve those people's problems, it will attract those right fit clients as opposed to everybody who just wants to be out there. I'll give you an example. When I was, and this goes for whether you're speaking on stage or you're being a mentor or coach. When I decided that I wanted to add on mentoring to my business and mentor speakers, one of the things that I did was start talking about getting paid to speak. You know, do you want to get paid to speak? Do you want to get paid to speak? Because that is what I was always being asked about. How do I get paid to speak? What do I charge? So I started this whole thing about getting paid to speak. Lots of people would sign up for my webinars, for my, challenges, for everything. And what I started to realize is that that messaging is the wrong messaging for the clients that I wanted to attract. I didn't want to attract people who were hobbyists. I didn't want to attract people who were just like motivational speakers. I didn't want to attract people who just wanted to get paid to speak but weren't really experts in their field. And that's what that messaging, just focusing on getting paid to speak, that's what that messaging attracted. So it attracted the right clients for the message. It didn't attract the right clients for who I wanted to be in the world. You see? So I had to change the messaging to start talking about leveraging your expertise, being a thought leader in your space, using that expertise to generate revenue. So not just getting paid to speak because it's a cute thing or it's a quick thing or it would be nice thing. It is actually taking your deep level of expertise, either for professional or personal experience that you've gained that expertise, and then leveraging that out into the world with writing books, with speaking on stages, with doing podcasts or having a magazine or whatever it is that you needed to do. But it was all about making sure that you are somebody who wants to elevate your authority and your influence, somebody who wants to create impact and thereby create income. And so the messaging has to change. And I had to really focus in on that. So when you're thinking about your signature talk, you want to be making sure that whatever you're building is attracting the right clients, not just attracting clients. Having an amazing signature talk, one that you are proud of, one that you have spent the time to really work on, will boost your confidence. And why is that? Because you will have clarity. Clarity, I will say this, clarity precedes confidence. So when you develop your talk and it comes from you, it is of you, it is deeply rooted in your why and your expertise, then you can confidently deliver that talk anytime, anywhere, whether they want you to do it for 15 minutes or they want you to do it for an hour, or if you're a trainer, whether you're doing it for 2 hours, 4 hours, or a full day. Your signature talk also will highlight what I call your unfactor. The unfactor is what makes you unapologetic, unfuckable with, right? Unique. That's not an but it's a thing that you become so known for that they know, oh, only you could do it like that. Only you could say it like that. Yes, many people will be talking about the same topic that you speak about. However, because of your unfactor and that being built into your talk and the way that you deliver it, the mechanisms that you use to help people to, solve the problems that they have, it will be uniquely you. It will be it will be unlike anybody else. And therefore, it will be built around your unfactor. And so whether you're competing for a stage or you're competing for a corporate contract for, with other people, what that unfactor will do will put you to the front. Here's an example. I had been asked to, I was in the running for doing this training for a particular company. They had an event, and one of the speakers said some stuff that was racist. And therefore, and their members who witnessed this were really upset about it. They needed to clean it up. They needed somebody to come in and help. So they interviewed me and a few other people, and I submitted my proposal. When I submitted my proposal, they reviewed it, they came back to me, they selected me, and they said to me, Kelly, your proposal was not the lowest. However, because of how you spoke about this topic, because we could tell that you really cared about it, that this wasn't just something that you were just doing because we selected you. That's part of my unfactor, in that I am unlike anybody else when it comes to talking about the things that I do. And so they could see that I really cared about it. And therefore, they were willing to pay me more money, right? They could have gotten somebody else for less money, but they decided to pay me more money because they could see that my signature talk around this topic, was really going to impact their audience in a way that they needed. I was going to take them from their current state to their desired state. And so even at a higher price point, I became the solution as opposed to a solution. You don't want to be a solution, you want to be the solution. Your signature talk is also your positioning. We talked about that earlier when I was talking about how do you put out content? How do you step your game up to become an expert or a thought leader? Your signature talk will help you to do that. It builds trust and authority. It will open opportunities. It is your calling card. And I know this is the part y'all want. And this is the part that I'm going to end on. That signature talk is the thing that is going to give you that premium pricing. I'm asked all the time about how to get paid to speak. How do I charge? How do I get 5 figures? How do people out here get 6 figures? How do they do all of that? They do all of that because they have a signature talk. It is a thing that they become known for. If you think about anything that you pay a lot of money for, so just think in your own mind, what do you pay a lot of money for? Why do you pay that amount of money? Why? Because it's something that is signature. It's something that is custom. It's something that you just can't get anywhere else, right? It's not something that you could just go pick up off the shelf a dime a dozen. Same thing with your talk. You do not want to be the dime a dozen signature keynote speaker, corporate trainer, coach, or consultant. You want to be that thing, that signature where they're like, oh yeah, see that Birkin bag that costs like, I don't even know how much a Birkin bag costs. You want the real Birkin bag, not the one that they got at Walmart. You want to be the real one, not the copy. And because there's so many people out here in the world speaking about the same topic that you're speaking about, you have to set yourself up as Birkin, the real one, not the copy. So this is what, I want you to just understand what signature talk is and is not, and what the benefits are of having one if you really desire to be a paid speaker, or you desire to get paid to speak so that you can generate leads. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts about this episode and all the episodes that you watch here on Speaking of Speaking. So remember to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. If you have a question, let me know. You can also ask me questions through my Speaking of Speaking newsletter, which, by the way, have you subscribed? You haven't subscribed? Okay, well, just go to sosnewsletter.com. In that newsletter, every Saturday, I give you new weekly insights, some behind the scenes, just additional information that I think is really important for you to understand as you go about building your speaking business and go about this journey. Some of you are transitioning from the corporate space into full-time entrepreneurship as a speaker. Some of you, it's just an add-on, right? An additional source of revenue. Whatever it is, this is the place for you to be on Speaking of Speaking, because I will speak about all of those things because I've done it and I'm doing it. And so if you have any questions or if you have any comments, just drop them below the video. Let me know. And remember, hit the notification bell so that you never miss an episode. And until next time, take care.